I'd say in this community, buy the damn candy for yourself. Celebrate something with yourself or with someone you feel safe with, who gets you, who validates you. But also give yourself some moments to step away. The grief of narcissistic abuse, even if you've been out of one of these relationships for years, can linger, and certain times of year can really potentiate it.
This episode is going to take on the issue of the holiday party and the nightmare that this can turn into, especially because eggnog, mistletoe, and narcissus don't mix well. So let's talk a little bit about holiday parties. And I would love to hear if you could drop a comment here, sort of like, what was your biggest narcissistic nightmare holiday story? The narcissistic boss who kind of hit on you, the narcissistic partner you brought to the holiday party who got really drunk and then really started talking to people as rudely as he or she talks to you. I would love to hear them, because it's always good for all of us to see that we're not the only ones who've endured this kind of a nightmare. Every year, and this is typically a workplace party, but it can be a in family or home party. But for every year, the annual holiday, for some people, the annual holiday party is a big deal for some workplaces. They go all out, and they've got the gifts, and they've got the booze, they've got the food, and they've got the whole thing. For many places, like I said, they will spend sometimes six figures on this. Some places it's smaller, but very often it can end up being a strange mess. We know that alcohol and narcissism don't mix. And why not? Think about how narcissists often are. They're incredibly impulsive. They usually say or do whatever they want, figuring that who cares who they hurt, and they can always clean up the mess later if they have to. Now, when you add alcohol into that mix, and alcohol really pushes people to be incredibly impulsive, now you've got a mess on your hands. And since at many holiday work parties, the alcohol is freely flowing, that can be a real mess, especially for the narcissistic employee who's already been a bit of a hothead. Now they might even be more so one. Or the person who says whatever they want without thinking about it, now they may even be more disinhibited. This can be problematic on multiple fronts. Number one, you may be on the receiving end of their ramblings, and that's not very comfortable. Number two, someone close to you, for example, you might bring a boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse to this party, and they may have to see it. Or number three, they can make things messy for your company by perhaps someone from your division speaking to someone who has some authority over that division and making life more difficult for all of you. When you add other issues in here, like the proverbial mistletoe, people have had too much drink, and narcissists for some reason think everybody wants to have sex with them, not so good. Forget about the Me Too of it all. It's deeply inappropriate, and it often gets really messy fast. As a result, many times the shenanigans of workplace Christmas parties, especially when there's a critical mass of narcissists involved, can become the stuff of legend in many, many workplaces, and not in a good way. People will often kind of go into a holiday party from a sense of obligation, much like they might go to any family gathering. I gotta go, gotta show up, gotta show the boss I care. But for a lot of people, what they'll see is that the toxic patterns that regularly appear in the workplace may appear even more at these holiday parties. Now, a lot of you may be watching this and be thinking, all right, come on, Doc, it's 3 hours, like how bad can it be? I don't disagree. But the damage that can linger after one of these parties doesn't end when the rest of the eggnog is thrown out. That words can be said, things can be shared, confidence is breached, and behavior conducted in a way that when the party's done, you still have to deal with it, if not the following Monday morning, maybe in a few weeks, but it won't necessarily be forgotten. Narcissists can often hijack the holiday party. At some holiday parties, it may be about gift giving and, what's the corporate gift this year and all of that. And especially if the head of your company is a narcissist, it really may become the them show. The whole thing is about them holding court, them being grandiose, them sort of playing arrogant, gaslighting Santa Claus for an evening. Again, it's only 3 or 4 hours. Can you endure it? Sure. But do people sometimes find this quite triggering and deeply uncomfortable? Absolutely. And when it's already embedded in a time of year characterized by many of the other things we've talked about in this video series: expectations and narcissistic families of origin and social media and social comparison and all the other things that take what should be a beautiful time of year and make it quite challenging. The holiday party at the workplace can be one more time when you feel uncomfortable. Now listen, you always have an option. You can always call in sick to the holiday party, but a lot of people wonder if they'll lose a fair amount of political capital in the workplace, and that's understandable. But it is potentially a very uncomfortable experience. And for those people who feel like this is an incredibly toxic workplace, I can't be bothered. I do not want to waste 3 hours of my life that I could spend holiday shopping with my kids, baking cookies, with these fools, 3 more hours I don't want to spend with them. And then by all means, you don't need to show up. One of the greatest narcissist repellents of all is to not engage in the first place. But once you are at the party, if you do go to the party, honor those usual rules: realistic expectations, radical acceptance, not engaging, setting good boundaries, knowing when it's time to go, and not having to give long answers. Don't share what your holiday plans are. Many times with narcissistic coworkers, colleagues, people who are even your bosses, less information is often a good thing, particularly when it's about personal issues. It's a really good rule of thumb when you work with narcissistic individuals, because the more information you give them, the more likely they will use it and weaponize it and potentially use it against you down the road. As bizarre as that might seem, it's quite possible. So yeah, narcissism, mistletoe, eggnog, and all the rest of it don't mix well, and least of all at a workplace holiday party. My advice is get in there early, stay sober, find the people you like, leave with them, go to a happy hour, and not sit there and watch the narcissist hold court. I can't think of a less pleasant way to spend an evening, and that will be one way to sort of take back your power in the workplace, set those boundaries that matter, make an appearance, and then go have the kind of healthy, fun time you want to have afterwards. How do you do a gift exchange with a narcissist? Please hit the bell, subscribe, because this is a series and you'll keep getting notifications about new episodes, not only on this series, but on all of our YouTube content about narcissism. So let's talk a little about gift giving and narcissists. Let's face it, even during the rest of the year, anybody who knows about narcissism and love bombing and all of that knows narcissists can often be pretty heavy-handed with gift giving. They'll often give disproportionately expensive gifts. They'll often expect disproportionate gratitude for those gifts. They will expect gifts from you and get kind of grumpy if they don't get what they want. It's a complicated space, and in the holidays it becomes even more complicated because so much of the dialogue at that time of the year is about gift giving. And narcissists have high expectations for what they get, but the expectations about what they give can be a little bit more complicated and mixed up. Remember some of the core elements of narcissism, especially things like grandiosity, entitlement, and validation seeking. All of these factors are at play in how narcissists think about giving and receiving gifts. You know, let's face it, a lot of people say that the gift-giving element of the holidays almost seems like it's out of control. The amount of spending people do even when they don't have the money. And of course, we know narcissists are shoppers, narcissists are spenders. They love this gift-giving space, because especially for narcissists who do have some money and exert their power through that money, it's often how they continue to really be controlling and difficult in their family dynamics or in their relationships, because they make it all about the gifts and less about what the spirit of a holiday really is about. So let's take a look at a couple of scenarios. Scenario one is when the narcissist overbuys. And by that I mean they spend money on a ridiculously grandiose gift, a new car, extraordinarily expensive jewelry, the hottest new gadget that was impossible to get, a really, really cutting-edge toy that no one is able to get that particular year, an extravagant experience like some sort of lavish trip. But it's an incredibly expensive gift, or a boat, or a jet ski, or a motorbike, something that is so big and has this enormous, like, beyond, larger than life bow on it. Narcissists are the masters of the grand gesture. It's kind of, there's something poignant and sad about it. Narcissists will often get so excited about that big gift, the $10,000 necklace, the expensive car, whatever it is, and really it's a big ceremony of it. And in that way, they almost are like an insecure little child, hoping that the person likes their gift. But just in that moment, we're like, oh, I hope they like it. Well, who's not going to like a new car? It can get complicated. It may very well be that you'll wonder that just at a year when your family might have been a little tight with money, why is this person going out and buying cars or expensive jewelry or watches or any of that? And if you have a moment where you don't show enough gratitude for that expensive gift the narcissist got you, will they get rageful? There will be that hypersensitivity will be triggered. And if you don't give the big gift an appropriately big enough reaction, all hell may break loose. And it can be a really, really uncomfortable space, because at the core of it, you may be quite grateful for the gift, but you yourself may be overwhelmed by it. But in essence, didn't give the right thank you, didn't put on the right grandiose thank you to feel good enough for the narcissist, who may then become very sullen for the rest of the holiday. Scenario 2 is when you feel the need to overbuy for the narcissist. Everyone knows this dynamic, that the narcissistic person is unpleasable. Whether it's a parent or a partner or an adult child, you just can't please them. So you become convinced, if I buy them a big enough gift, if I buy them a good enough gift, you put so much time. And it may not even be that you spend a lot of money, but you expend a tremendous amount of effort. You hand make something. You put together pieces of a gift. You make it a scavenger hunt. You really go all out, because this will be the year you win the unwinnable narcissist over. You may yourself be a little let down if the narcissist reaction is like, wow, okay, well, this isn't exactly the watch I wanted, but you, in fact, spent much more than you ever believed you could on that gift, hoping you'd win them over. You might even have a little empathy for some of those disappointed narcissists. But it is that sense of, you have to catch yourself and say, why am I trying to win them over? Every year I try to do this, and every year I can't win. So in some ways, the best thing you might be able to do is not try so hard. Let's now look at the under-buying scenarios. When the narcissist pretty much clearly bought your gift driving home at the drugstore on Christmas Eve. Underbuying is not unusual in narcissists who are in the discarding or devaluing phase. Many people are devastated by this. They'll say, my gosh, like, I'm their child, I'm their family member, I'm their Secret Santa recipient, I'm their partner, their spouse. And they couldn't even get it together to remember to get a gift. Or, you better yet, you'll get money stuffed into an envelope and say, hey, buy yourself what you want. It may even be a lot of money, but there wasn't even an attempt to purchase something else that could be meaningful. I remember working with someone once who told me that the narcissistic family member in his life would always regift something that he gave that person years before. We decided we would push back on that, and from here forward, he gives the narcissist something he wants, so when he gets it back a few years later, at least he knows he's going to get something he needs. So it's sad when you have to do that. But for some narcissists, like I said, particularly those who are at the phase of they don't feel like you're that important, they're indifferent to you, they undervalue you, they're sort of discarding you and are moderately contemptuous, and they are moderately contemptuous of you, at that point, you might find the narcissist who underbuys for you. What if you underbuy for the narcissist? Good luck. If you try to do a narcissistic gift as a last-minute thing, like, oh my God, I can't remember, I'm just going to give them a gift card, you may actually hear high and holy hell for this one. Because a narcissist like thinking that they are the center of other people's universe. They look for that validation. They want the moment. They want the big wrap package. Even though they try to express some disdain, like, I don't really care, I'm not about gifts. They want the gift. And so if you're going to get it, you kind of got to get it right. And it can get very frustrating, because what ends up happening is something that may feel like a very kind gesture on your part, making something handmade if you're struggling, or just happen to be good at making things that are handmade, or something kind like a framed photo, may not pack the pow and the wow you want with a narcissistic individual, or they'll find a way to criticize it because that's what they always do. What I tell people who are dealing with narcissists around the holidays is you need to set realistic expectations and realistic budgets. What you do want to do then is with that, so you don't overbuy and overextend yourself in an attempt to win over that narcissist, but you also give that gift from a place of saying, it's the holidays, it's a gift-giving time, I am going to give a gift, and I'm going to expect not only nothing in return, but perhaps not even a thank you. It's kind of like throwing the gift into the abyss. But remember what gift giving is. While it feels great when it's a reciprocal process, when you're dealing with narcissists, it often isn't. And that perhaps the real process of gift giving is the joy it gives us to give a gift to someone. Go ahead, put the spangles and the bows and the ribbons and the bells and the whole 9 yards on the package. Give it and expect nothing back. It's actually a very transcendent form of gift giving, and it can get you pretty far with a narcissist, because who cares what the narcissist thinks? For you, you may be at peace that you did make a beautiful framed photograph of them on a wonderful day or of a special experience. If they kind of sneer at it and thought they were going to get something more fancy, it is on you to not personalize that, to not minimize that, to not think that somehow you're less than because they didn't like your gift. You're not a 4-year-old child who's giving a mom the picture they made at Christmas time or at holiday time or in school. You're an adult and need to understand that gift giving in an ideal world goes 2 ways. With a narcissist, it only goes 1. And if you can get yourself into that headspace that I'm giving this gift from a place of heart, from a place that feels internal to me, regardless of the reaction, then you have mastered the narcissist. Do what feels right. Some people might say, to heck with this, year over year I give this person a gift, and they don't even have gratitude for it, then don't do it. Don't keep giving the gifts. That's on you. Some people say, and I don't want there to be a conflict. That may not happen. But finally, keep in mind that in the end, trying to win a narcissist over with gifts, unless you're a billionaire, is probably not going to work. Because the odds of you being able to pull a big enough rabbit out of your hat is not going to happen. Because as we know, trying to validate a narcissist is always ultimately a losing game. You're never going to come up with a big enough gift. You're never going to come up with a big enough experience. You yourself, at some point, they're going to get bored with you. Not because you're not valuable, but because they are so insecure. They're not capable of engaging in that kind of exchange. Gift giving is actually a really beautiful human experience. It's our ability to be with another person, and whether that gift is of our time, of an object, of an experience, or of something we've created. It's something we human beings have been doing for a long time. Don't let the magic be taken out of that experience because a narcissist doesn't know how to express gratitude or receive that which you're giving. The giving is really the spirit of this. Don't let that be taken away. This episode is going to focus on new holiday traditions and rethinking the holidays. Please do subscribe, hit the bell. You'll get notifications not only about the rest of the series, but all kinds of other content that are germane to understanding everything you want to know about narcissism. So let's talk about the traditions we've got. In other videos in this series, we've talked about this idea of the ghosts of Christmas past, the dysfunctional traditions that sort of keep us stuck. Holidays can often be about getting stuck. People get really, really wonky. The Christmas tree has to be in the same place. The menorah has to be put in that place. We have to have this cookie, this, that, and if you don't, people actually can get pretty agitated and unsettled. No matter how progressive some of your family members may be, they can get really stuck in how it has always been done. This stuckness can also manifest in your more narcissistic family members as a means of control. A new family member may come in with a new idea. The narcissistic family members will say, it's my way or no way, which can make it uncomfortable. It's also unfortunate because new traditions are actually wonderful and dynamic and healthy for everyone involved. What saddens me so much about the holiday period is that what should really and could really be a time of rejuvenation and new beginnings and rest at the end of a long year becomes a time of dread and dysfunction for so many people. A time when a lot of offices are shut down and people can catch a little bit of a break. A lot of people find themselves burning themselves even more out, and in fact, seeing family members they don't ordinarily see the other 11 months of the year. So whatever kind of muscle they got during the year saying, I've got this, I've got better boundaries, I've got more realistic expectations, I'm engaging in more radical acceptance, I'm doing it, they see their narcissistic family of origin, or they go back to those old holiday triggers and it all starts again. So here's my question. Are you ready to start some new holiday traditions? You know what, I'd love to hear from you if you throw a comment down. I would love to hear what traditions have been important to you in the holidays, but also what traditions have been sort of hurt or thwarted by the narcissists in your lives. Some people will say, you know what, I love doing this or I love doing that, but every year it became so much trouble. I love going to midnight mass, or I loved going caroling, or I loved doing this community service thing, but I ended up stopping doing it because my partner made it so difficult. We'd love to hear from you, because I'm actually very curious about what kinds of traditions you've had to give up on because of the narcissists in your life. So let's work back on this. For many people, obviously, and again, would love to hear it also in comments too, what do you do during the holidays? There is some pretty garden variety stuff, right? People kind of tend to go to family of origins or in-laws. They eat, there's gifts. It's pretty formulaic. And a lot of people afterwards will sort of have the regret of, I spent too much money, I ate too much, I drank too much, I wasted a lot of time, and I feel worse after the holiday than I did before. That's not the idea. So let's talk about some other ideas you can think about. If your friends, your network of friends, is healthier than your family network, then perhaps spending time with friends could be a really, really important and lovely part of your holiday. You may need to suck it up and do the whole narcissistic family holiday celebration dinner, call it what you will, but you may also create a new kind of holiday celebration. Creating one with friends, where you're pull names out of a hat, or something I've actually done with my graduate students in the past, where you have a pile of presents and people pick them out and they kind of trade between themselves and get into friendly little arguments about it and sort of see where all the prizes end up at the end. But creating those kinds of times and spaces with people that are safe, respectful, validating, and kind can be an incredibly important antidote and new tradition that can really lighten up the holidays and make them more restorative. While we are past Thanksgiving, many people take the time to celebrate something called Friendsgiving, where they draw friends around the Thanksgiving table, often potluck, and it's either celebrated the day before, the day after, or the weekend after. And many people will report that Friendsgiving is a far more profound, lovely, loving experience than the dysfunctional ramblings of the narcissistic families of origin around the dinner table. Another option is break entirely out of the mold and travel during the holidays. Now, travel during the holidays can be much more expensive, so that can be rate limiting for some people. However, travel doesn't always mean getting on a jet and flying across the world. It can even mean an interesting road trip. Depending on what the climate is where you are, it may mean a camping trip. It could mean making arrangements well in advance. It could mean traveling to a friend that lives in a different part of the country and maybe being a house guest, but doing something different. So many people get wedded to, it has to be my living room, it has to be my Christmas morning, we're going to get through this if it kills us. That sometimes switching it up can be a great way to set a boundary with a dysfunctional and narcissistic family system and try something new and different. When you marry someone, you inherit their family too. If not married, even a long-term committed relationship. Think about how you divide your time during the holidays. Divide it in a way where you can minimize the toxic interactions. Figure out, maybe top load the difficult toxic interactions so you can get them done, so you can have a soft landing into healthier relationships. Now let's think a little bit about gift giving. It's always that shuffle. What great new thing can I get for people? How much can I spend? Narcissists in particular love the big grandiose moment of the big gift being opened up, and they certainly love being the recipient of those gifts. Check out the video on gift giving. But what about a different kind of gift giving? For example, charitable giving, where you might even give up a third or even half of your holiday budget to giving maybe to people in your community that may have endured a disaster or falling on financial hard times, or working with a local organization to make food baskets or gift baskets or give gifts of clothing or blankets to people in need. Many times the reason that holiday celebrations, toxic holiday celebrations, we get stuck in them is because we're a little afraid to break the cycle. But that fear is what keeps any narcissistic relationship in place. Fear of taking it head on. Fear of saying, I'm not putting up with this anymore. Fear of walking away and what will happen. Usually not much. Be prepared if you try to change the script on holiday traditions, people are going to get aggravated. Most people say, you're going to take my holiday traditions out of my cold, dead hand. Maybe. But if those holiday traditions are putting you back and leaving you depleted as you go into a new year, think them through. There is no special place in heaven for people who endure narcissistic family members year over year over year at the holidays. It may be that you take a pass at the holidays and then go put up with their shenanigans at a different time of year that isn't as emotionally evocative. Taking on new traditions and new worldviews and new perspectives is a huge tool in pushing back on the paradigm of narcissistic relationships, especially narcissistic families of origin. If you have children, it can be really wonderful for your kids to see healthy traditions rather than getting mired in the very dysfunctional traditions you were stuck in and that have ruined your conception of the holidays or made them a triggering space year over year. This is a chance to create new ways of looking at this and actually turning this into a very beautiful, festive time of year. In the Northern Hemisphere, at least, it's a time of year where we don't get as much sun as usual, so it's a time we often draw indoors and spend time with people we care about. While some of that may be spent with people who are not healthy for you and may represent sort of the toxic, narcissistic underbelly of your life, be sure that some of that gathering time is with the people you love and care about, who see you for your real you, that are functional and healthy and happy and validating. Create that sort of experience for yourself. Honestly, that may be all the holiday gift that you really need. In this episode of our holiday series, we're going to talk about how to keep it clean, in essence, have good hygiene with those narcissistic family members. Please, though, subscribe to this channel because this is a whole series of videos about how to cope with holidays with the narcissist. Hit the bell. Not only will you get this series, notifications about this series, but you'll also get notifications about all of our other content about narcissism. So let's talk a little bit about this holiday hygiene. And by hygiene, I don't mean brushing your teeth and washing your hands. One of the reasons that narcissists can do such a number on us during the holidays is how many of the cycles repeat over and over again, and things that seem like annoyances, and sometimes even big annoyances during the rest of the year, seem really awful during the holidays, especially if that feels sort of like a special time of year, or a time of year you're taking a break and would love just sort of a break, or something you actually believe in the magical spirit of the holidays, of people coming together with family and friends. One of the key gifts you can give to yourself during this holiday season is boundaries. Everybody's like, what does this mean? What are these boundaries you speak of? Boundaries are really about putting up fences, small or large, between you and other people in a way that you watch what you talk about, the vulnerabilities that you share, that how you conduct yourself with another person. Because what ends up happening is narcissistic people often violate boundaries, say inappropriate things, try to get into your business in a way that feels really violating at times, and you may not feel equipped to manage that. So one thing that gets tricky about the holidays is that that's often a time of year you're seeing people that you may not see at other times of the year. And it's easy in a year or 6 months or 8 months to forget about how to keep those boundaries. So when we think about that, how do we keep healthy boundaries during the holiday season and all the rest of the year? It's really to assess what feels comfortable and what doesn't feel comfortable. Some people, interestingly, often feel pulled to share about their lives with narcissistic people. Maybe they think that this time it's going to be different, that this person will hear it or appreciate it or not be rude. And there's that chronic disappointment that comes when year over year that same person says something inappropriate. Oh, you're still single, or you guys still don't buy a house, or you still didn't get out of that job. Year over year, it's like you just keep getting reminded, why did I fall into that trap again? Boundaries are often about preparation, getting ready for this interaction or interactions you're going to have with toxic or difficult or narcissistic family members. You know where your uncle is going to go. You know what your mother is going to bring up. You know how your partner may behave around family. Be prepared, because when you're prepared, you can keep those boundaries appropriate, and there's less of a chance that those difficult family members will get to you. But more than anything, and this is something I've reiterated throughout this series, keeping healthy holidays, holiday hygiene as it was with narcissistic family members, is all about having very, very realistic expectations. One of the real challenges is that people sometimes think this year is going to be different. Why, I don't know, but they do. And it's not. And when those expectations get dashed, what's already challenging can feel a little bit more devastating, and maybe even more devastating because it's the holidays and it's not supposed to be like this. Have those expectations. Somebody who's been a difficult person for 15 Christmases running, or 15 holiday periods running, or 15 Hanukkahs, or whatever running, there's no reason to think this year isn't going to be any different. Here's a little bit of a holiday hack for you. It's all about timers. Figure out a way, if you can, if you don't want to be rude and keep having a timer making noise, whether you have one of those iPhones or some other phone that has a timer, some other watch that has a timer mechanism on your actual phone, figure out a way to set a timer and set it to a buzzer so you can feel it in your pocket or on your wrist. Those timers can help you feel sane. Because if you're getting corralled into a difficult narcissistic interaction, set a timer and know that you've maybe done your time of 10 or 15 or 20 minutes of a difficult conversation. And then when the timer goes off, use it as an excuse to say, got to help my mom in the kitchen, got to run to the restroom, got to check on the kids, or I got to just go deal with something. It may not always be easy to make a graceful exit, but at least at that point, because you know sometimes with a difficult or narcissistic person, 1 minute can feel like 20, then you're sure, like you've put in the time, you've done the 20 minutes, and then you might be able to make a graceful exit, and at that point, you might have given this narcissistic person just enough supply to get them off your back and keep the rest of that particular holiday day a little bit more manageable. But there are always other distractors around, and those are things like the world outside. Any holiday, whether it's Christmas Day or Christmas Eve or whatever holidays your family celebrates, take a walk. Build taking a walk into that day. I don't care how cold it is. No matter how cold it is, bundle up, but it's still going to be a lot warmer than dealing with that invalidating narcissist or other difficult person in your family. Take a walk, make it part of your workout. It gives you a chance to get the sky above you and just sort of clear your mind. Also, offer pet duty. Take the dogs for a walk. Play with the pets. Clean out the litter box. Feed the pets. It just pulls you out of the difficult people, makes you useful, and then you're dealing with the sweetness of animals. Also offer kid duty. Listen, a lot of family members would be grateful if somebody takes on the kids. And while the kids may not be a picnic, I can promise you they're probably going to be more easy than the difficult year-over-year toxic conversations you have with difficult family members. Pull out some board games, pull out some paper, do some crafts, get lost in the zen of it, hang out with the kids. Kids may be tough. No kid is as tough as a difficult narcissist. And again, this is the year of a very political, since the past many years, we've had very political holidays. People reporting themselves torn apart around holidays because people are talking about politics, and it's just not manageable. But politics aren't the only third-rail topic. In some families it may be, but other third-rail, difficult topics, as it were, are things like, when are you getting married? Asking you about your kids, money, past hurts, past disses, but things you know are the sensitive topics in your family. Every single year they come up. And sometimes people just feel compelled. It's as traditional as whatever family traditions you have, from Christmas trees to dreidels to you name it, that for some reason it seems like having that difficult conversation year over year over year comes up. Keep in mind too that at holiday get-togethers sometimes people do drink, and those loose lips sink ships, that when people are drinking, that they do sometimes say things that they may not ordinarily say in a way that's more cruel. And then when you combine the eating, the drinking, people being put together who aren't ordinarily put together, it can really be a recipe for the worst narcissistic patterns to come to the surface. Keep that in mind and don't take the bait on those topics. The holidays are meant to be a time, and they have been since time immemorial, have been a time of feasting, of sharing time together, of reflection. And it was often the long, dark winter, so it was a time to take refuge during the longest, darkest nights of the year, huddle in together, and have some loving moments. Sadly, toxic family dynamics can often take all of that joy out of the holidays. But by following some basic holiday hygiene tips, maintaining boundaries, having realistic expectations, radical acceptance about your family, using little hacks like using timers so you can just put in the time and then give yourself a well-earned break, taking walks and hanging out with the kids, preparing yourself, knowing that why would this year be any different? Make sure you get enough sleep. Prepare yourself for these difficult interactions. Bring a distractor like a book or a journal to write in, or knitting, or something that's a hobby, just to give yourself a moment to get away from it. But don't make it a stressful thing. Like, don't bring work or something if you can avoid that, because that might make it even worse. And then stay away from those difficult topics and don't take the bait. When they dangle those tough topics at you, you can always say, you know what? I'm not married this year. I'm doing fine, but thanks for asking. You may want to punch them in the face, but no one needs to be punched in the face during the holidays. Step away, be graceful, recognize that they're stuck in their own broken narcissistic loop of a record, but that you can evolve past this. That right there is the single best narcissistic gift you can give yourself.
Happy Christmas and really happy holidays. I know December is sort of a hodgepodge of holidays for everyone, from Hanukkah to Christmas to Kwanzaa to whatever things you're celebrating, even down to New Year's. I'm using Christmas Day to put this because I know a lot of you probably aren't on YouTube, or maybe some of you are because you're dealing with narcissistic family members. But it's my chance, actually, to wish all of you a happy holiday and to acknowledge that in the midst of all this good cheer and all of that, it can be a complicated, complicated day. For anybody who's grown up in a narcissistic family, this is often a day where it was actually could be quite tense, quite disappointing. The narcissistic family member would often ruin this day year over year. A lot of people often approach the holidays with dread. I will acknowledge I'm one of those people. The holidays have been a very, very fractious time for me because of narcissistic family members. And so I'm not one who really necessarily enjoys this day so much. And so I want to normalize that for you, because the one thing that narcissistic abuse does is you see the rest of the world seemingly so jolly and looking forward to a certain experience. And sometimes it can lead you even having more of a feeling of feeling cut off from the world, of saying, everyone is deriving joy from all of these experiences. What's wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with you. You're actually having a rather accurate appraisal of, if this is a day on which there's always so much harm and negative emotion, to be wary of it, to be careful. To live in narcissistic abuse, to heal from narcissistic abuse, in many ways is to live with grief, which is an emotion we often don't like to equate with the holidays. But I think that for all of us, whether it's something acute happening like a familial hospitalization, whether it's the bad memories that come of it, or maybe for those of you, and we'll be talking about this in that healing program next year, for those of you who are trying to heal, one of the most important things you can do on any holiday is try to bring some of your own rituals into it. You may very well have to spend this holiday, this period of time, whatever, with difficult or toxic family members, partners, adult children, whomever, even workplace folks. But you can do something for yourself, whether it's saying that, this year I'm going to get myself something special. This year I'm going to decorate a little space in my house just the way I want it. This year I'm going to see a friend who leaves me feeling uplifted and really consider that to be my holiday celebration. But really, from me to you, I can't literally give you a gift. But the one thing I really, really hope, especially as we start rounding the corner into the next year, is to really focus on lifting that self blame. Please, please don't blame yourself for another person's toxic behaviors or patterns. As another gift I'd like you to give yourself, I'd like you to start working on that self compassion. Above all else, that self forgiveness. Everyone's so damn focused on forgiving the narcissistic people. I want you to learn to forgive yourself. So many people say, "This is my fault. I stayed in this too long. I chose this person." You didn't know what you were choosing. Nobody taught us and any of us about this. So that self forgiveness, lifting that self blame, being kinder to yourself, and look at how large this community is. Recognizing that there's a lot of people going through this. But when you look at all of that, those of you on social media, those of you who've been walking down the street and saying, "I'm not feeling it this year," give yourself permission to say, "That's okay." I find that for survivors of narcissistic abuse, this period, pretty much from the end of October to about the early February, is a challenging time where everyone's being told that we should be be full of gratitude and be loving our families and buying lots of gifts and be so cheerful and go to parties and have someone to buy candy for. And that's not always the case for somebody healing from narcissistic abuse. I'd say in this community, buy the damn candy for yourself. Celebrate something with yourself or with someone you feel safe with, who gets you, who validates you, but also give yourself some moments to step away. The grief of narcissistic abuse, even if you've been out of one of these relationships for years, can linger, and certain times of year can really potentiate it. So sometimes that just involves time and space. It can sometimes involve just taking a walk, taking a breather, watching a movie that lifts your spirits, reading something you like, whatever it may be. I happen to know that one thing I'm hoping to do in the next day or two, despite me feeling quite down this Christmas, is to go look at a beautiful light display. Although it's all cheerful and all that, it's also just pretty. And if I can frame it like that, that helps me too. So if this year, as this year comes to an end, I want to thank all of you for building this community. I'm watching all of you help each other in the comment section, which is all I ever wanted this to do, was become a sense of community. I'm watching people implement all of this information. That honestly is the best holiday gift someone like me could ever receive in her life. So you've all given me a gift, and I want to give you a thank you for the holiday gift you've given me, for all of you who every day get up, fight the good fight, and try to stay strong in these relationships. I'm so grateful to you, and I know each day it'll get a little better. So thank you to all of you, because this really has been a gift to me. And I hope today, on this holiday and throughout this holiday season, you can be kind to yourself, give yourself the space you need, and get a little gift for yourself. Thank you again from my heart to yours. Happy holidays.